You live in a state of increased awareness and sensitivity. You're consistently worried about things that never seem to happen. And you may be suffering from something called hypervigilance. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Welcome back. And first off, if this is the first time that you ever landed on my channel, I talk about being highly sensitive, all things to do with emotional health and learning to embrace who we are and beginning to make that change in recovering and healing from trauma. If that feels like it might be a benefit to you, then please make sure that you have subscribed and you turned on the notifications so you know each and every time I post a video. I am very, very aware that I am somebody who is very, very hyper vigilant, okay? It was something that I became awoken to when I started my healing journey as recovering from being the child of an alcoholic, something that was predominant only in my early stages of my life, okay? So that's really important to understand. So hypervigilance it's described as a state of increased awareness or sensitivity to your surroundings. You live in a constant state of feeling like there is some kind of danger from the people around you or the environment around you. And often these dangers are not real and these fears are unfounded, okay? Now, what does that really feel like in your life today? Well, if you're somebody who, whenever you go on days out with the family, for example, the days can consistently be ruined within your mind because you're constantly worried about something going wrong. You're worried if everybody's okay. You're constantly fighting this internal battle of trying to prevent arguments, trying to prevent people from falling out, trying to avoid those difficult emotions. You see subtle changes in the people around you, subtle changes in their mood, in their facial expressions, in their tone of voice, all of that kind of stuff. And it's so heightened and sensitive in your mind, it causes things like migraines and headaches and stress and worry and just this increased anxiety. You may remember as a child the similar things. Consistently be worried about your mum and dad arguing and fighting, consistently worried about how one of your parents was feeling. Again, that real sensitivity to the change in mood, to the subtle part of the voices, almost as if you're picking up on energies that nobody else can see, right? So if you relate to that, this is probably hypervigilance, is what you're experiencing, okay? Now, why do we experience hypervigilance? Well, I believe there's two things to talk about here. You have the nature-nurture debate, okay? So I believe that the first thing is our sensitivity. I believe that I was, part of my personality, part of the nature that I was born with, right, is my sensitivity. I'm highly sensitive. And I recognize now and believe that my environment kind of opened that sensitivity up and heightened it even more when my brain was developing at its fastest rate in those initial years that I don't recall in my memory, by the way, but that my body and my mind remembers. My sensitivity was kind of being exposed and my brain was developing ways to tap into those subtleties, right? So my sensitivity is a big part of it. But then secondly, the environment that I grew up in. If I grew up in an environment, or if you grew up in an environment that had some fear around it, where you were emotionally lonely because maybe you didn't have an adult that was able to match your sensitivity, then you would have lived in this kind of hyper alert state, this sensitive to your surroundings, where you were constantly kind of worried about when it was going to go off. Yeah. If you grew up with an alcoholic parent, for example, you may remember that the times when they were sober were the times when you was in this even more heightened state because you were anticipating and waiting for that thing to happen. So what this means is what I've described as an adult is where it kind of just overtakes your life and it prevents you from being present. It prevents you from being in that moment, and it causes huge disruption to your life. You can go for family days out where everybody seems to have a good time, but in your mind, it was just this big stressful thing where you were just tuned into to all these things that are happening. And lastly, can we change hypervigilance? Well, the reality is, I believe, it's something that we need to work on throughout our lives, right? Often people are asking me, when I'm describing lots of the things that I'm describing, where's the change? What can we do to change? There's never a simple answer, but I'm going to make a video that's dedicated to what we can do, the first step to healing our traumas and to healing things like this. And the first step in simple form is to become aware of this, right? And start to try and override that. And when I say override it, I mean, put a dam in the behavior and create that change. Now, don't worry too much about at the beginning stage what that change is. Just begin to become aware of when we're coming into that hypervigilant state, when we're starting to be attuned to the stuff around us. Take 2 seconds, do some breath work, okay? And I don't mean, it doesn't have to be this crazy big meditation state. Just intercept. I'm feeling anxious. I'm becoming hypervigilant. I'm going to override that. I don't need this hypervigilance today. Today, I'm going to be present. And that small change of override is not going to take it away, but it's going to give you the opportunity to be able to manage it, okay? To be able to then begin to create that change. Once you start to do things like that, very small changes, then you're on the journey. Then you'll start to learn, because you're becoming consciously aware of what you're thinking rather than trying to run away and fight it. I hope this has helped. Please, let me know the things that you want me to expand on when it comes to hypervigilance or anything else that I talk about. I'm very open to helping people to process and learn with the things that they want to learn about and that mean a lot to them. If you've liked this video, please make sure you've liked it, and I'll see you next time.